Hey, everyone. Welcome back. Episode 13,
Infinity.
I think. Episode Infinity.
Say that.
Phil's out working. He's Team America, so he's out there tearing it up. Kyle's back. He's got to go to shift here in a second, so we're going to get a smaller conversation. We apologize, but hey, you should be in the Word anyway, being biblically transformed. That's what we talked about this weekend, fellas. We had a good time at Sunday Fun Day. Thanks for showing up and loving people, getting to pray with people and invite them, and so hopefully, prayerfully, that those people show up and we can get them connected and we can make them help them be part of our community and all that. But anything you want to share about that before we move into biblical transformation?
You said something in the message, man, that was just I asked myself, how many people are thinking of this of themselves? And you used the example of, gosh, who did you use in the first service? I can't remember, but the second service you used Jackie. Of like, Jackie 5 years ago, like she's grown so much. And Jackie from 5 years from now will look back and talk smack on her, And I was just like, it got me thinking to myself, and I was like, how many more people can sit here and have this thought of just one, where they've come from and where the Lord has brought them, and two, just the joy that comes from like, where's he taking me next?
Yeah.
Right? The adventure of what's next. So
There it is.
That was... And that's all done through biblical transformation, right? Whether it be a mindset, physically, location, mentally, spiritually. And I think that was the question I walked away with in my head from Sunday, of just one, myself, and just how awesome God's been in my life. But two, just if people that like was thinking that. And maybe had questions of, well, what could that look like? And that's where I'm like, come talk to us. Don't leave without talking to us, So
Yeah, we got to get people talking more. I feel like this is just a personal thing for me, but like we got to get people taking more steps, and not for the sake of like, oh, we had 17 people take a step of this. No. It's for the purpose of going, hey, your future self is going, good job.
Please,
you did it. Yay. Instead of going, we're in the same spot, the same place. We're doing the same thing. We're expecting different results. That's just crazy to me. So anytime, if you're listening, you need to make a step, come talk to one of us. And it doesn't have to be us. We're not that important. Go talk to your community group leader, your D group leader, or someone serving. You want to go serve. You see someone dropping someone in the tithe, like, go ask them, how do you do that? Like, what's your heart behind that? Like, what type of authentic community, like you talked about last week, would emerge like a volcano in Awaken? If we started just being curious instead of condemning or confused, I guess you might say. But
there's a shirt, curious over condemning.
Perfect. Kyle, what about you, man? What stuck out to you, or what would you?
Yeah, I think it's along that same vein of just look at me 5 years ago, where I am now, and then looking forward to the adventure of the next 5 years. And I think it's with that, it's as we're in the Word and as we're diving deeper and learning more, just the 5 years ago me having an understanding of what it means to follow Christ, and then the who I am today, it's like, oh, this is a whole different ballgame. This is a whole different, and just how when we invest time in the Word, invest time in community, and invest time in doing life His way, just how He continues to reveal more of Himself to us, and His nature and His character, and like, it's the same God, but the God I knew 5 years ago today is different. Like, He hasn't changed, but I've changed in my heart posture towards Him. And just, I could read the same verses I read 5 years ago, but something's different every time I read it. And how the Word's alive and active and sharper than any double-edged sword that wants to get rid of more of me every day. And as I accept that, more gets chopped off, and I'm different. I'm different than I was 5 years ago. And just that perspective of looking forward to what more is He going to remove from me in the next 5 years, and what more is He going to reveal to me of Himself in the next 5 years is exciting. And that's like, again, what doesn't sound like fun about that? Like, about the God of the Creator of all things revealing more of Himself to you, to draw closer to Him and to know more about Him, and to know His heart, and to trust His heart more, and to lean into Him more, and to understand Him more. And then He gives people around us on that same path. That the goal is for all of us to desire that together and for each other. So, biblical transformation isn't, I I think you said it at one point, it doesn't just happen. It's the consistency of being committed to it and desiring it, and to see what could happen if I fully let my cotton ball submerge in this. And what comes from it. So
it reminds me of like Romans 12, right? Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Well, it always starts in a mind thing, right? I got to change the way I think. And the only way I can change the way I think is not coming up with better thoughts. It's getting God's thoughts, right? It's Isaiah when he says, my ways aren't your ways. My thoughts aren't like your thoughts. The way that I do things isn't like you do things. So if you follow me, there is going to be that transformation, and it will be gradual, right? I think there's that sanctification process, but it's also starting with the Bible, right? And so if you got friends out there that always say, well, I think this, tell them, like, I appreciate your thoughts. I think that's great, but can you give me some scripture, what God says? Because that's what I'm really needing. That's what we all need. And I don't think that's wrong or anything like that. I just think we have to summarize it as, what does the Bible say, like we talked about on Sunday? And then what am I going to do about it?
Well, I think you said something very, very critical of wanting it. You have to want it. I think a lot of people say they do with their mouths, but then between their heart and their mind, their actions come to show that they really don't, right? And there's that, I guess that would be my question of like, what stops someone from really seeking to want to know more? Because he never takes anything of you away without replacing himself. And so you see a lot of times where people, I want this, I try this, and it's like the heart and the mind aren't aligned in pursuing it. So therefore, that the one side of the sword never gets to come in, for the other side to pull out, and for him to come in. And you're just like, what stops you?
Yeah.
What prevents you? Like, I can't imagine. And I guess, I don't know, thinking off the top of my head, shooting from the hip, it's like laziness. I don't want to read. I don't want to be vulnerable. Like, I don't want to share. I don't want to be transparent. I don't want to be committed. I don't want to be consistent. I don't want to lose my way, my times, my thoughts, my precepts. I don't know. So it's just interesting, like, talking about this.
Sounds like a lot of my.
Oh, 1,000,000%. Yeah.
Use the issue.
Yeah, as is the issue.
I didn't read this part, but if we read this side or this passage, backing up just a little bit before the doers of the word instead of just hearers, in verse 19 in James 1, it says, my dear brothers and sisters, understand this. So he's like it's like almost like when someone puts a finger in your chest, like, you need to understand this. Like, that's the tenacity I think about. But he says, everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to anger, for human anger does not accomplish the righteousness of God. And then it goes, therefore, ridding yourselves of all moral filth. And just thinking about that, just one example. I didn't give it on Sunday because I just really wanted to focus on that. Doing the word. But you said selfish reasons. Why people, you asked what would be the selfish reasons? Well, let's just ask this question. If everyone should be quick to listen and slow to speak and slow to anger, what are they actually holding on to? What would you say? Yeah, pride's the big answer. Mm-hmm. So pride and quick to listen, what does that sound like? The opposite of being quick to listen is slow, right? Mm-hmm. And so what are they holding on to at that point?
Patience. Lack of.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I want to be heard. Yeah. I don't want to listen to you, right? Perfect. Slow to speak. The opposite of that is fast to speak. And what are they proving in their pride?
What I have to say is more important.
Yeah. And that, I just think about how many times I've done that in the past. Like, no, you're going to shut up and listen, right? I don't say that to people, but the way that I can talk over people and stuff, that has been something that God is obviously trying to say, Matt, that you're part of the everyone, right? And then slow to anger. It doesn't say you shouldn't listen. It doesn't say you shouldn't speak. It doesn't say you shouldn't be angry, because I think angry people are awesome because they want to get things done. They realize something in the matrix is wrong, and they want to insert what Christ wants to do. So the ugly side of slow to anger, moving in that direction, the pride side of fast to anger would be what? What are they valuing in that? Or what do they think about
They think their ways are right.
Yeah, that they're
the
They're the judge.
Yeah.
So then it gets to verse 21, fellas, and it says, therefore, ridding yourselves of all moral filth and the evil that's so easily prevalent, humbly receive the implanted word, which is able to save your souls. You guys got thoughts on that, like for our church, what that looks like? Because obviously we're dealing with people, so we know that we all have moral filth and evil that's so prevalent. How does the word save our souls in that?
I feel like I have such a perfect example of this, man. And it happened Sunday right after church. And just going through, funny to hear you say, like, angry people want to do this. Going through a conversation at the lunch table and just talking about the hypocrisies of multiple faith systems and how what they accuse each other of is exactly, in fact, what they do. And letting my zeal, my passion, my frustration, my immaturity, all of it start coming out. A cousin through marriage says, who I just met on Thursday, and this is just, it's so cool within the biblical community, and I've been thinking about this ever since. She says, given our conversation yesterday at lunch, the message given today, and how Christians should be conducting themselves, how else could you say what you're trying to say and allow it to fall on ears that want to hear? And I was like, and she goes, you're probably not going to like me for this, but I'm going to say it. And I immediately, I was just like, you're 100% correct. Like, thank you. I said, if I would be slow to speak and think about what I wanted to say before just blatantly shooting it off, I'm sure I could come up with it. I was like, so thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. I hope I'm not overstepping. No, not at all. And so I was like, a couple minutes passed, and I'm trying to think, because I'm like, I'm trying to make a valid point, right? And then boom, not even 3-4 minutes later, I'm able to come out and say, this is what I was trying to say. And she's like, that sounds
was
like
better.
right? And I was just like, how cool. This lady doesn't know me. She doesn't know my heart. She doesn't know my personality, none of that. But she knows I'm a follower of Christ.
That's the standard.
Right? She knows in the last 72 hours of conversation of talking about the Lord that I have such a love for him. And I love to help encourage and spur people on to love him as well. She was able to say, I know you have it in you. How would you do it? Right? For somebody who may not know you and know what you're trying to get at, that would help them hear what you're trying to say and maybe help them get a little closer to Christ themselves. Her time, her own alone time with the Lord, allowed her to know me, a stranger, and my heart for the Lord, with a little bit of admonishing, a little bit of sharpening, authenticity, right? Saying, I know it's there. What would you say? And I just receiving that, you're not overstepping. Way to have my back. Thanks for looking out, right? Thanks for helping me rid myself of this filth that's brewing within inside me that honestly would ruin any type of testimony that I may be trying to have with an outside world. Right. Thank you. And it blew my mind, because for any of you who know me, right, and how I put my foot in my mouth, it makes me think of the people that I've ran with 4 years who still don't comprehend that. But the stranger I met in 72 hours, because of her time spending with the Lord, was able to make that connection. And to me, it's just like, we talk about authentic community, biblical transformation, committed discipleship, and just what we try to really build Awaken on and around. The stranger from midway across the country was able to put into practice what we...
Yeah, because, I mean, same book, same mirror. She
put
it up in front of your face and said, this is what you want to look like. And so when people do that, they can become offended. They're like, how dare you? Like we talked about that, right?
Yeah.
Like, who died and made you judge and stuff like that. And that just, honestly, friends, it's such an ugly place for a Christian. Like, such an ugly place. When anyone cannot take instruction, right? Because the second one, right, point one was being sick and tired of what's present. You got to get sick and tired of it. Like, it's not working, so do something else. Number two is like being willing to listen and take in instruction. I think it's just such a hard thing for people. And again, it's their pride, right? They're like, well, I'm better. I did this. I don't do this all the time. It's like, but you should be wanting to strive all the time for Christ and move in that direction. Kyle, I'm not sure what you're thinking about that, but that being willing to listen and take in instruction, maybe you can share with us like what's it supposed to look like? Because that's part of it, and we're going to hear more of this kind of leaning in, because that's kind of what the rest of all these core values do.
Yeah. I think, how is it phrased? Put away your sinful moral filth.
Yeah, ridding yourself of all moral filth and the evil that's so prevalent.
Yeah, ridding yourself of moral filth. I think individually, before someone comes up and admonishes or like calls out the sin in your life, that moral filth that you maybe haven't seen or you're choosing not to see it. Most of the times we know it's there, but
You're choosing not to
see it. There's just that verse alone individually is ownership on yourself.
Yeah.
And there's a sense of, I have to own that I've created this mess. And I think in just recent conversations that I've had, like, and I think we've all had, like, there's a potential for a sense to blame the devil in the darkness or the sin that you're in. And we just give him way too much power, I think, across a lot of our Christian circles, that, oh, the devil, and if you're ever at a point where you're saying the devil made me do this, it's like, he don't got that power.
Yeah, he better show up with his pitchfork and his horns.
Yeah, and he only has the power that that Christ has allowed him to have, but you're the one that accepts the fruit. You're the one that's taking the bite. You're the one that's dancing with him.
Right.
And choosing that. So that in that verse, that sense of ownership, I'm going to put away my filth and disgust because of what the word has called me out of and to not be.
Yeah, the Bible's instruction.
The Bible's instructions tell me, I love, it was months ago, but our goal is to obey God and die. That's our life. And if it ain't in that book, and if it ain't saying to do that, then I need to put that stuff away. Yeah. I need to obey him and move away from this and take ownership of where I've been. And so if I can wrap my head around that, believer, if I can wrap around in my head of, I need to own this filth and get rid of it. I'm not defined by it anymore because he's freed me from it, but I'm taking ownership and wanting to rid myself of that. When another brother or sister comes in with the heart of that for me as well, I think you're sitting in a place that's easier to hear, okay, this is another thing I need to own and get rid of.
Right.
It isn't, they're not coming after me as a child of God necessarily. They're coming out of this child of God's choosing to not be a child here and not be obedient and not be submissive to the king and not being obedient. And so,
and that's the
again, and you talked
word.
about it, that first fleshly response is like, who are you to say? Like, and you're going to be the one to call me out on this? Or like our armor goes up of like, all right, it's on. And it's like, slow down, child. Like, what are they actually
pointing out?
Are they saying you're garbage? Are they saying that whatever your brain, and I'm talking to myself here because me's my worst enemy. But I think it's just it's putting verse 19 into play. Slow to anger, slow to speak. Let me hear what this person that I've trusted with other things. I've probably dropped my kids off at their house. I probably have trusted them with other things in my life up to this point. Why would I second guess their heart for me now when they want my heart to be more like Christ's?
Yeah.
And so I think the slow to anger and slow to speak and like hear what they have to say. Like,
and I think that's the part where it says humbly receive the implanted word, right? And the implanted is a farming term. It's someone's bringing something to you and trying to put it in your heart to let that cultivate and grow and be watered. And to humbly do that is to go, well, I need to open that up so you can stick that in there and remind me of who I am in Christ and who he has called me to be. Not necessarily here's 17 things to do, but more so here's who you're called to be. And let me put that in there.
And even if there is 17, do the first one at a time.
Yeah.
And walk with somebody to help you do it.
Yeah.
Because if you try to do it all at once by yourself, it's no wonder you're going to fail and get exhausted.
Yeah, because ultimately all those things, that moral filth, the evil and all that, it is not saving our soul. It's actually polluting it. And you just got to ask yourself, do I want to continue to live a polluted life? Well, if you do, then you're going to get sick and tired. And then when is enough, right? When you lose your marriage, when you lose your kid, when you lose your job because you're looking at things at work that you're not supposed to, Like, I don't know, we could paint a bunch of pictures of what evilness and filth looks like, but can we also paint on the other side of the paintbrush or other side of the canvas of like, here's what it could look like if you do receive
And what
the
did you
implanted
call that
word.
again? What when you're painting futuristically?
Prudence. Yeah, prudence painting.
Gosh, I was trying to think of that last night. I'm like, prudence. I was like, what is that word? Something painting futuristically. Yeah, prudence painting.
So kind of wrapping up, thinking about like another child of God telling another child of God, here's what you need to be doing and here's where you need to be going. What maybe new paths have you put into place? Maybe that's something that we can have our listeners or whatever, our friends at church understand that we're not past this, right? We're still growing and understanding, and I still have to work with not getting as upset with Gideon when he doesn't listen and obey, and I'm like, man, these preteen stuff is weird, and still having to have big conversations with him, like, and they learn that Dad likes asking questions, so what do? They fire back questions to me all the time. Like, did I say that, Dad? And I was like, no, sir. Right. And learning to apologize to them and ask for forgiveness. So, but it's still my job to point them into that direction of no moral filth, no evil, none of that. So that's kind of where I've been going, but also transforming my mind in like, this is working. God is doing something at Awaken. It isn't for vain. It isn't just empty words. Sometimes I see out there and I look in the audience or the crowd or congregation, and they're like, just looking at you, and I'm like, are you getting this? Or are you thinking about tacos? Like, what's happening? And so just reminding myself, like, it's my job to point you guys and everyone into the habits of honor. So that's where I'll continue to push for yourself and for me, and I'm never going to ask you to do something that I'm not doing myself.
I think for me, it's showing that it's okay to ask those questions, to welcome curiosity. Why do you do that? And allowing people like feel comfortable in asking that and saying like, oh, I think there's been such a stigma around the church of like, we can't ask questions. We can't ask the leaders questions. The leaders aren't involved. The leaders aren't in the population with people. They're separate. They're apart. It's like, no, like we're human just like you.
Yeah.
We bleed and poop just like you. Right. And showing that it's okay and welcoming that in and bringing it in and grooming it up to see that it's real and that it's serious. That's why we see a lot of leaders, I think, get in trouble because they are alone. They aren't letting people in. They're trying to prudence paint a false image of what leadership truly looks like, and it's not that as to why it falls. And people are like, oh, well, forget the church and church hurt and this, that, and that. So I think just welcoming curiosity and showing how God blesses that.
I like it.
Yeah.
Kyle, what about you?
I think I shared a lot in that message a couple of weeks ago about my struggles and where I've been recently and where I can potentially get to if I am left alone to myself.
Right.
So I think it's just continuing that, building up that road for me of like, when I start falling off the road a little bit, what's the correction? What are the steps to make to correct the road I'm on and a lot of that is action steps for me to reach out. Like I think that's a big thing about vulnerability and being authentic and accountability is like, I need to reach out and say, I need you guys in this time, or I need to hear from you. And not just expect people to reach out. And so for me, it's just solidifying that works for me. And even in my firefighter realm, the things I see and the things we go through on those calls, like I've set up a path to deal with those visual traumas. Like I need to talk about it after 2-3 people. I have those things to help and to lift that off my heart. Why would it be different in other realms where my flesh and my my sinful nature that I have the propensity to fall into about how I think about myself, how my self-worth problems, like I need to be forced to talk about it. Right. So I think it's doing that, and it's having the prudence to see where I've been recently and what if I don't do something, what it's going to lead to. Yeah. And I know what it leads to. Yeah. And it's a mess, and I don't want to be there again. Yeah. So let me take little chips out of where I can here to stay on the right path. So, but again, that doesn't happen if I don't have the Word of God.
Yeah,
to
instruction.
To lead. If I'm not in the Word daily, to help me point to that, and the authentic community to lean on and trust in, and to bear some of that with me in my stupidity, honestly, and just life. Like I can't control everything that happens around me, but I sure can't control who I'm doing it with and sharing it with. So,
and how you respond to it.
Yeah. I think we're all in charge of, like we read Romans 8:29. He also did predestinate us to be conformed to the image of his Son. So that's what we would leave you with. That's the goal of biblical transformation, to be conformed to the image of Jesus. That's it. And if you need steps, or you want to know how to do that, or maybe you see someone doing it better than you or whatever, good. Tag alongside. Like,
ask them how.
How'd you do that? How'd you get there? What are you thinking? What did that make you feel? What did other people say about that? Like,
Be a wire.
Just keep downloading as much of that information so that you can go have transformation, and we'll leave it at that. So continuing on next week with committed discipleship, how it involves other people. So, all right, we love you guys. Have a great week of worship. We're going to send these guys off to work. And so, yeah, love you. See ya.